Okay, so I've been gone for a while. I know. I'm sure nobody maybe noticed. If you are new to the channel, I'm Just Hams Tarot. I do tarot readings. I try to do them in a way that's sincere and open and honest. I typically use 2 to 3 decks because that's really all I have, but that's also all that I really care to use. To get straight to the point about why I've had such a long hiatus since my last video was uploaded, and also my setup has not gotten much better. It's still shaky as a bitch because this is a very cheap setup. It's a very last minute, this is what I've got going on kind of a setup. But back to why I just haven't been present for a while. I'm gone through very much a major spiritual shift in how I view spirituality, how I view my own experiences when it comes to spirituality and spiritual concepts. That includes how I approach tarot and how I want to present tarot to people. I've never really had an interest in commodifying it or doing it for profit, even though I could benefit from making money from doing tarot. But I've noticed that also the market is just really saturated out there, especially here on YouTube, with people who fit some of those same tropes that you expect to see in the spiritual community surrounding tarot readings into how they present themselves and how they've managed to profit from that. And me realizing that that's not authentic for me, that a lot of things that are deeply spiritual to me aren't something that I want to do for profit or for pay, because it gets into that sticky area of, am I being authentic and honest with you, or am I just saying what you want to hear because that's going to get me views, clicks, likes, subscribers, and money? Not to steal anyone else's shine or be disrespectful to anybody else, but that's just not who I am or why I even originally started doing tarot back in 2006. It's always been about wanting to understand the craft of tarot card reading as well as other forms of divination and sharing it with other people in ways that it can be used as a tool to help them maybe listen closer to their own inner voice and somehow tap into somewhere in their thinking that they've just never actually used or never actually looked at. I'm a firm believer that your own free will and your own sense of self is the best guide you could ever have, ever, for most of life's decisions. A lot of times, yes, it will take someone outside of you pointing out something that you maybe didn't notice or offering you other information so that you can better make informed decisions. But I never, ever wanted to or want to step into that realm of making anyone feel like I have access to their ancestors that they just don't. That I've got access to some type of spiritual entities or something that for whatever reason just won't talk to them because maybe they're lacking something spiritually or mentally or emotionally, or that I can help them manifest something that they can't do for themselves. I don't like that idea of you are the deficient person coming to me for the service because you can't do it. I've never supported that, and so I'm not going to. In fact, likely this tarot reading and any other tarot readings I put on my Just Hams Tarot YouTube page are probably going to be titled No BS Tarot Readings, with a particular title or topic or subject that we'll be covering in the general reading. Also, as a disclaimer, I know this is getting long-winded and y'all are probably going to skip to the part that's important or that you really want to listen to if you see this video at all. But a disclaimer, I am not a medical professional. I'm not a licensed professional that can tell you the best thing to do concerning your medical health or your mental health. If you think that you need that type of extra help or assistance, I strongly urge you to seek medical attention or psychological or psychiatric evaluation to help you better navigate your life in a rational and practical way. This is for entertainment purposes only. but we're still going to get into the tarot. Maybe one day I'll do a video on how tarot typically works for me. But today we're going to just keep it a general reading. It is the middle of June. Well, actually almost the end of June. I think today's the 26th of June, 2023. So we're going to use the Halloween deck and the Necronomicon deck to get into a general reading about what could possibly be coming for the second half of the year. I'm not going to say that typical thing of, if this doesn't resonate with you, just click over to another whomever. I'm not going to say that because, again, it's just entertainment. Maybe I'll say something during this tarot reading that will elicit a thought or memory or something that's jogged somewhere in your subconscious that helps you better understand what you're facing and how you choose to move forward, what your next steps are. So we're going to keep it at that. No BS tarot reading is what we're sticking with here. I'm going to, like I said, use my Necronomicon deck, which I absolutely love this deck. Not promoting the individual who made it, but I addressed in other videos who did in fact make this deck. I love this deck. I've used this deck for years now. And also the Halloween Oracle deck, which I also love. First of all, the back of this card is so pretty, but also the cards inside are so nice. I love these cards. I love the meaning and emphasis behind the illustrations for this deck especially. I'm going to probably use these off top to just get a baseline idea of what you, the viewer, may be facing or going through currently, and if it's going to be the same in the upcoming next 6 months. So let's take a look. I'm sure the camera is still somewhat wobbly, but that's because I still said, like I said before, I still have the same janky setup that I had before. That is as cheap can get. If y'all could see this setup, you would laugh. It's something. But anywho, keeping it real. Let's get into this. Let's see. I'm gonna put down one. We'll go with that one. I hope y'all can kind of see this a bit better. Let me push this a little further back. Oop, that did nothing. This setup is cheap. Oh my gosh. Okay, that's better to an extent. All right, let's take a closer look. All right, so that's your 3 that we're gonna start with. We're just gonna keep it at 3 because I don't wanna make it too complicated. And I don't want this video to be that long either. You got joy, rejoicing. It says rejoicing in the present. So kind of interesting that this would be the first card to come out as far as what could easily be taking place at this present moment in your life. For some of you, it may be something a little bit different coming up. What's funny is that this card also, if you look at the artwork on here, it's very fall-esque, very autumn-related, which is one of my favorite seasons. I love the season of fall. It's always about transmutation and renewal for me. Right now we're dead in the middle of summer. I don't know how hot it is where you guys are, but our temperature today is 103. So having a change, some cool kind of a change, is dope as far as I'm concerned. I'm a fall lover. I think we can be thankful for the current times that we're in. So maybe some of you are like, things aren't ideal, but change is coming. I can be thankful for what I have currently right now. Be thankful for the blessings I have right now. For some of you who feel like your life is unfavorable and just not going the way that you intended, it is crucial to look at the things that are going well in your life right now, because that is what's going to keep you propelled and moving forward in the next coming days as we transition from summer into fall. Typically, things change economically across the world, actually, in the fall season. You have a lot of companies and corporations that start looking at doing, it's like the end of the fiscal year. They start looking at where they've made gains and where they've made losses. And if you work for a company, that could affect you, hopefully positively. So things might not be great right now, but be thankful for what you are able to do with whatever means that you have, so you can prepare for a positive change coming up soon. That's my thoughts on that. Let's look at this card. Ha! What a coincidence. Winter. Wow. The sacredness of pausing. Wow. Okay. Sorry. How, again, so fitting. If you notice that even though the backdrop here is very winter-like and the frozen tundra going on, you've got this fall leaf right here in the middle, not touched by frost just yet. That's incredibly relatable considering that we're looking at this individual looks like they are just in the blaze of summer. Oh my God, so hot with fall leaves falling everywhere. And then here is a fall leaf in the dead of winter, but seeming untouched by it. It's, again, crucial, I think, right now in the midst of everything that's going on. So much change, especially these seem like very climate related cards, how climate change might even be affecting your overall mood, your overall ability to work, even how to save your resources and do what you need to do because you're faced with, well, our calendar right now says that we are under a severe heat advisory, or we're dealing with drought right now in the area that I live in. There's so many things that I would only have access to that I just don't because of the climate we're in. It's important, again, to gather what resources you can have now and what can sustain you right now so that you can prepare for yet another major change during the second half of this year. You've got both of the two seasons that are in typically the northern hemisphere of the earth that are coming up in the next 6 months. Like I said, as you notice, the woman, she's reveling in this change despite the blaring sun behind her, the joy of the present. And then you've got this leaf that's in the dead of winter, looks like in this artwork, but is being still and untouched. Take both of those things in consideration. Slow down, pause, look at what you already have in front of you and what is accessible to you now so that you can be prepared for the 6 months coming up. Let's look at this card here. Ooh. Seems ominous, a little bit foreboding. The Skull of Darkness. It says blind spots. Something that you may want to keep in mind is where you aren't seeing the light, where you aren't seeing any hope at the end of the tunnel, where you are just either in the midst of unbelievable scorching heat, which we are in my current state and county, or if you are in the southern hemisphere of the planet where you're dealing with, we just had the solstice, summer solstice here in the northern hemisphere, and now we're going into summer, but it's winter here where we are. It's very cold. We're about to go into the coldest seasons that we have. We might all need to take a pause and just really look at what is it that we're not noticing? What is it that we aren't taking stock of? Where are the things that are going to bring us that light at the end of the tunnel feeling and keep us propelled forward? Let's re-examine those. Actually, let's take a deeper look. I'm going to use the Necronomicon Tarot deck, get a more in-depth look into Joy, Winter, and Skull of Darkness. I feel like I'm kind of rushing because I know that I don't want to keep these videos too long on my channel at this point. I want to keep them very much to the point. Like I said, no BS tarot readings. So let's look at this. What you can glean from the joy in the midst of all this heat, rejoicing in your present circumstances. Where is the joy? Let's see. I'm going to do a quick shuffle. I hate to do it because it just shakes my camera all up. But all right. Let's take a look. King of Swords. The King of Swords from the Necronomicon deck always, for some reason, gives me Scorpio energy. I think I've mentioned this before, even though it's not a Scorpio card that I'm aware of. This is a person who's very keen on what's going on in their current surroundings and what's going to be advantageous for them. What could be another person's downfall could be the very thing that helps propel them forward. He's actually depicted as a thief with this skull mask on, a thief in the night, someone who comes up when you're least expecting it. You may have to make some fast maneuvers and some quick changes as far as keeping up with what resources you currently have. actually being a little bit frugal about where you're spending your money and where you can invest and save right now during the height of most industries spending they see from consumers. If you work in the hospitality type of field of work with hotels or even restaurants, things of that nature, every tip you get, every extra shift you're able to pick up, utilize and hold on to as much of the profits from that as you can, because it may not be the same obviously come in the fall and winter. A lot of those types of industries see a fall off in customer spending. If you're a person who you typically go out there and spend a grip every summer because you are reveling in this beautiful hot weather and the experiences and memories of going on vacations, and you still want to live that lifestyle, I would say do it, but maybe do it on a smaller scale than you normally would have in years past. Because for some reason, there's just this sense of being thankful for what you have, but to the point that you're not taking it for granted and squandering it. Let's see what else. Let's get like 2 more cards for this one. The Star. The Star. This is a very hopeful card. So if you have been wishing for or hoping for something to really come through, it most definitely could come through in the second half of this year. The next 6 months as things transition and change from summer into fall. The Star is always a card that the first thing that comes to mind is hope. One more card. Ooh, we'll take this one that jumped out. King of Wands. A very fitting card considering that I personally associate this card with Leo and fire and heat. So right now in the midst of summer, it would be to your best interest to make forthright decisions. Really be mindful of how your decisions and actions can affect your environment and the world around you. Think about how a king, a good king, would oversee his kingdom and those within his court. If he's a upstanding, forthright king, he's going to make the best decisions that keep the grain in the silos and keeps everyone fed, and that everyone's able to live fruitfully despite the heat. Despite that maybe the crops aren't as forthgiving as they were, in months prior when it wasn't as hot. Be mindful of the choices and actions you take when it comes to your resources and even how you share them amongst others. It's good to enjoy this time, but don't take the grasshopper's approach, take the ant. For those of you who get that reference, I'm sure that makes perfect sense. But let's look at winter. Let's look at this, the sacredness of pausing. Let's look at, in the next 6 months, this might actually be a direct symbol too. Also, you have fall and you have winter. Like I said, we're talking about the 2 seasons that come in the northern hemisphere of the world in the next 6 months. I guess by default and bias, because I live in the US, that's just how my mind pictures that. And again, like I said, for those of you that are in the southern hemisphere and it is currently going into the colder months of the year, or it is currently in the colder months of the year, let's take a look at this sacredness of pausing, taking stock of what you have. 8 of Swords. This card is always tricky for me because it's a card that comes up in the deck rarely when I'm doing a tarot reading for myself. It's hard for me to relate to it because it typically has to do with self-sabotage. It has to do with thwarting one's own success, or maybe not having all the information you need and acting impulsively in a way that brings about a lot of regret afterward. I think in the art depiction of this, it's very interesting that this person looks like they were coming to really do some damage, but the damage has already been done. Unfortunately. Or maybe fortunately, who knows? That's the thing. I feel like whenever the 8 of Swords comes up, it's always a matter of you really do need to take pause and take a look at what's going on around you. Like that, but it's so interesting, what a coincidence that it does relate correlate directly to this sacredness of pausing. Actually taking a time to stop and go, wait a minute, okay, let me really assess my situation. Look at what I have in front of me and look at my environment. Am I in a bad situation? Or am I in the best situation possible considering the circumstances? Could this actually be worse? I think that's important, especially consider, for some reason, that's just the energy or the vibe I'm kind of getting from that. I feel like it's best to really consider what you have right now. Don't lose sight of that. Take a deeper look at it even. Really take a look at what resources do you have available? What do you have even in your inner self that could be useful to you that you just maybe never tapped into? So let's get 2 more cards here. The Magician. I absolutely love and adore this card, not just because of this bomb-ass artwork. Like, I love this artwork so much. I don't just love it because of this artwork, but also, too, what the Magician entails. Again, the Magician also does give me very big Scorpio energy. Has to do, in a lot of ways, with the positive side of it, I guess, being manifestation. Actually wishing upon that star and then trusting in your inner self as well as your outer life, the people that are your support system, and possibly your job might be something that helps you make something manifest and come to reality. This seems like coming up in the next 6 months, a lot of us are going to tap into something that's going to help us manifest a much better life situation than what we're currently dealing with, even if we love what we're currently dealing with. The negative side of that, because I already talked about the positive, the negative side of Magician that could still be really useful, you got your light and your dark to most things, is the manipulative side of the Magician. Being able to say what needs to be said, how it needs to be said, and to whom, in order to get what you want out of people, in order to get things to turn in your favor, in order to convince someone else to give you an opportunity that you there's probably other people who could better take advantage of the opportunity than you, but you want to get your name in the hat first. That is something for those of you who know that that's things you're capable of, that you're okay with stooping to that level of anarchy almost. I keep getting this idea of the Magician coming through and just wrecking what's everybody's norm in order to make a path forward to what they need. I'm not against that, honestly. I don't support people ruining other people's lives, but I definitely support people being advantageous enough to go, I know exactly who I need to talk to and exactly how I need to talk to them to get what I need. I support that. I get it. A lot of you may be stepping into that type of energy. That's something. All right, let's take a closer look here. Even in how the Magician relates to the Eight of Swords, maybe you're the person that got there and assassinated these people in the card first. For some of you, that could be a direct message right there. Just making sure you get in first. Too bad, so sad for anybody else, I guess. God, that's awful. All right. And then one more card. Let's see here. Oh, okay. 4 of Wands. Woohoo! I love this card when it comes out because this card talks about things like the completion of a cycle. Often it relates to retirement, graduating from an educational institution, whether it be high school, college. Even though this is the later 6 parts of the year, it still could relate to those of you who have maybe just finished up graduating. Maybe you graduated from high school recently, or you've graduated from some type of 4-year university. The completion of something. Maybe this is finally your chance to retire. Maybe this is your moment to take stock, like I said, of what you already have and go, I think I've contributed enough to this particular career field or to this particular employer. I've given enough at this point. You might be sapping your resources and your natural inner resources, your energy, your time, your health. This might be a calling for you to finally just look at everything that you've accrued, look at all the fruition of your hard work and labor, and go, I did that. I think I've reached that point, that pinnacle, and I'm just ready to sit down and enjoy the things that I've accrued at this point. And that's a beautiful thing. That's a wonderful thing. So let's get to the skull of darkness, this blind spots. What is it maybe that we're not paying attention to collectively? Or you, the individual watching. Maybe this, I am going to take a chance and say, okay, maybe this is a message specifically meant for you, whoever you are. There's a probability and statistics thing going on there for sure that this is hitting home for maybe several of you out there who end up watching this. So let's look at what you're not paying attention to. As far as the next 6 months, what is it that you need to pay attention to this now because it'll benefit you the next 6 months? Hell, maybe it's something that you've been missing all along and that's why things haven't been going your way. So funny, we have now the King of Swords and the Queen of Swords is here. The Queen of Swords is a lot better at taking stock of what's actually there. Again, this thing of look at what you have and how you can utilize it. The King of Swords is very sneaky. He kind of takes the back doorway into, well, let me see what other people have that I can utilize and use. Kind of like literally a thief in the night coming through and just rambling through your personal belongings, all your stuff, and seeing, have they got this I can use? Have they got that I can use? What resources can I pull from to better serve myself? The Queen of Swords is the complete opposite. She's already taken stock of what's available, who is in her inner circle, and what talents and skills they have that she can couple with her own and use that for the collective. Even though these are very gendered cards, or I'm viewing them in such a way, I think you could be of any gender or no gender at all, and the Queen of Swords is going to be the energy you want to tap into when it comes down to who am I and what am I capable of? Really, what am I capable of? Without the thievery, without the BS, without the foolery, without the manipulation, am I already that bad bitch? What do I have that I can use at my disposal? Maybe that's something as far as a quote-unquote blind spot, because it fell over here with this particular card in the Oracle deck, that y'all have not looked at. What are your talents and skills? What is the information and knowledge you already have, especially because Swords is all about thinking and thought. What is it that what's a knowledge, talent, or skill that you have not actually utilized? Let's tap into that. Dropping cards everywhere, sorry. So let's get 2 more cards. What is another blind spot that you guys have just really not looked into? Let's see, what have we got here? Ah, yes, 2 more cards. Ha! So coincidental that both of these are very fitting, actually. So you've got the Knave of Swords. This energy, whenever the Knave comes up, regardless of the suit that it's in tarot, I always kind of look at it as your inner child. Here I've been talking about nothing but your inner self. No outside sources, even though you're looking to me as an outside source to help you better maybe have insight and understanding into your inner world and inner self. The Knave of Swords is all about your thinking in your youth. Like I said, maybe you are a high school graduate. Maybe you are still in this young energy, and not in a negative way. The Knave of Swords is kind of mischievous, but in a fun way, wanting to get out there and get adventure, take a look at things, a hell of a lot of curiosity about what is out there. The Knave of Swords does need some level of guidance to an extent, but not because they're incapable, but because they need someone to help them channel what they're capable of and channel their talents and channel their energy. That might be something you need to keep in mind in the next 6 months. A lot of you might be going into a new career or a new job position within your current employer where you're going to have new training because it's just new for you. Or you may have to consider, I've always had a talent for this naturally, innately, since my childhood. I've always been really good at this. How can I bring that back out and foster that? Whether you choose to do that for money or just do it for some type of hobby, something that brings you joy, tapping into what you have that you've always had that you can use now. It's going to benefit you in the next 6 months, period. Because the other card that came out was the Ace of Disc, as it's called in this particular deck, but it's also known as the Ace of Pentacles. This is about new money, new streams of income, new things that even if it's not money related, new energy, something that's going to reinfuse and fulfill you in your life in a very positive way. It might even bring you new experiences that you've never had before, have always wanted to have. I think that is such a direct message, honestly, that even I myself can pay attention to. To take something that's always been an innate part of who you are, and it's just always been there, and maybe you've just not looked at it. If you look at that theme across all 3 sections of this reading, that is something I hope that you can relate to and take from this reading into the next 6 months of the year. That you can go, I've got this time to sit and reflect and pause in the midst of the unbelievable summer heat or unbelievable winter cold. I've got this time right now, when things aren't changing too much yet, to look at what I have in front of me, to look at, I'm about to go into the autumn of my life. For those of you that are retirees, as it was depicted right here down the center, that this is your graduation, this is your rebirth, this is your new phase. It's not the end, but just the end that leads into a new beginning. What did you acquire in the first 6 months of the year? What did you acquire in the first parts of your life that were the most prolific, the most changing, the one where you put in the hardest work, you gained the most information, you went through the courses, you went through the university, you've gone through that major phase of maybe even being a parent, of being a spouse, that big benchmark change in your life. The next 6 months are that transition into something that it's always been there with you. You just never tapped into it. This was a no BS tarot reading from Just Tams Tarot. I think that's as good a place as any to like wrap it up and sum it up. I'm not even gonna look at the bottom deck energy because that's just another way to keep y'all looking longer, honestly, on either deck. This is basically what it is. I hope that you gathered some insight from this, that there were things here that you go, damn, maybe Tams was right. Let me really take a deeper look at what do I already have available. That's the first thing to take away from this. What I already have, what I've already used that's garnered me things that I wanted. What's something that's inside of myself now, not the outside. What's going on with me inwardly that I can use now to go into the next phase of this year or the next phase of my life. Thank you for watching. I hope that you guys come and visit the channel again. I cannot promise I'll always have a consistent schedule. I cannot promise that my content will always be consistent with a particular theme in the spiritual community. But for those of you that do watch and do enjoy what I present, thank you so much for being here. And I'll catch you guys next time on a Just Tams No BS tarot reading.